I tell myself to relax it. Will be better next time I try. And even if I still can't do it, yeah, you know that I'm gonna stick to it. Yes, it's all about going through it, and I'm gonna tell you why. Whoopsie, whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies are what it takes to get better and better every day. Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies, help me look, see, I'm better at this today. Woo! Whoopsies, whoopsie, whoopsie, whoopsies.
I'm a little embarrassed when I look at my drawing compared to this. I'm just not getting anywhere with this. It makes me wanna hide. Aw, don't be embarrassed. Don't hide.
You should have seen mine the first time I tried. It took a lot of whoopsies to look this way.
No one's perfect on their first day. Whoopsie.
Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay.
It's okay. Whoopsies are what it takes to get better and better every day. Whoopsie, 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 whoopsie.
Well, what about this? I want to jump rope, but nope, I just can't do it.
Well, not yet. Come on and practice with me. You'll see there's nothing to it.
Whoa! Whoopsie.
Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies, help me look, see, I'm better at this today. Woo!
It was only a dream, the waves of evil crashing over us. It was only a weak and faithful scream beneath the battlements. I know it's hard, but for long, before it's too late. Wake up, my love, please don't care about me. It's hard. Wake up.
What is up? What is up, you guys? We are back at it again. You know what's up. We're here another day at, that's right, 100 days of Rootkit. Chugging along, learning all the things, slaughtering people along the way. Hey, it's the only way you can properly get your rage out, alright? Because this can be very enraging, alright? I think you guys know that now, alright? So the only way you can really fulfill that rage without damaging your equipment, alright, your computer itself, slaughter things. NPCs, goblins, alright? You're still waiting on your hoodie? You should have gotten... Didn't I send you the tracking code? Jimbo? You should have gotten it by now. I'll check out the tracking code here during the break and see what's going on. Alrighty, let us chug along here. So, if you guys don't know, we are Rootkit, non-profit here in the US of A. Hold on one second here. In the US of A. We do epic things like 100 Days of Rootkit, where we're going to teach you everything you need to know to get our Comp Sci Cert. Alright, our Comp Sci Cert, which is better than a college degree. Alright, it's just better. It just is. Alright. We're going to teach you literally everything you're going to learn out of college, except without the $100,000 price tag. Wow. Isn't that insane? Yeah, we're making no money, alright? It's all free. Alright? Whole part of the charity thing we got here, including boot camps. Don't get me started on boot camps, alright? That's just laughable. Don't even waste your time or money. Just come here, alright? God. I'm not going to even... just irritating. Alright. We also have more free stuff like our week 8 giveaway going on right now. All you gotta do is press this green button and put in your email. Then you have to prove that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, Twitch, etc, etc. And then you're up to win some merch. What that merch will be, I don't even know. We're gonna figure it out together on Sunday, alright? It's a mystery roll from our merch line. And to continue on, if you want to help support us, because doing things for free is... it's a little expensive, alright? Now, where does the money come from? You're right, where does the money come from? It's not coming. We're dying. We are dying. Except because of our beautiful supporters, we keep chugging along. So go in here, support us today. When you support us, you can unlock some epic merch, like our epic stickers, exclusive 100 Days of Rootkit stickers here, if it will focus ever. Our normal stickers, our epic collab t-shirt, and this epic sweater that I got on right here that Jimbo doesn't have. Sucks to be him, I guess, right now. I'll figure out your where it is, Jimbo, don't worry. This thing is very warm. Additionally, all donations are being matched 1-for-1 for the first 10,000 donations. Those roll in at the end of the month. So all the people that have recently donated, we'll see those matching contributions come in here at the end of the month. We have epic pillars to hit along the way, like streaming for 24 hours straight, shaving my head here live on stream, and the one no one wants to see, me shaving my beard. Alright, you'll literally see me become 10 times less intelligent live on stream if we hit that one. No one wants to see that, alright? That's no bueno, no fun. Alrighty, let me pull up the chitty chat here. Sweet. Are you guys ready to get back into it? I feel like they're... also, we have... one second. Can I just go to their site? How do I even get to this? Hold on one second, y'all. I got one new thing. All right, one new thing to start plugging now. All right, one new thing to start plugging now. We haven't done this one like 50,000 times, so I don't have it rehearsed off the top of my head. So let's go ahead and go to org, click on this, view, rootkit. There we go. Also, all certs are going to be issued on the Credly platform. We have been approved and added to Credly. This is where all major certs live, like Microsoft certs, Amazon certs, etc., etc. All live on the same place, so our certs live there now too. What can I say? kind of a big deal, I guess. I don't know. So we have you can see all the shirts here that are currently available. We're adding more and more in the coming months, but you can get your active volunteer cert here if you are an active volunteer. All these certs can be added to your LinkedIn profile, and they will link and show that they are completely verified and when they are, what do you call it? If they ever expire or not. All right, some of these certs do expire, particularly all the language certs do expire after 3 years, because guess what? The programming language updates every year usually with a brand new big update with new features. And guess what? You would think it would be common for people to stay up to date, but nope. That's why we have lots of people running on Java 8 and 11 still, even though it's a decade old, and there's still support given to it because of the old processes and people don't want to switch. So guess what? We force you to stay up to date whether you like it or not, and that's why we're the best. All right, no antiquated things. So your comp sci cert is on here also and will be issued to you. Alrighty, let us see here. Any questions in the chat before we chug along? We left off yesterday. All right, we left off yesterday with our, okay, gotta close this one. There we go. We left off yesterday with a little bit of a challenge. All right, I saw a bunch of you guys were trying to go about doing the challenge. All right, go about doing the challenge. I didn't see anyone fully complete. Okay, one more thing, I guess. Sorry, you guys. If you're a Patreon or Discord premium member, I am in the events chat in the Discord. You can hop in there at any time and ask any questions with your voice. All right, any questions with your voice. All right. So, challenge was yesterday was to make it so this actually adds loot to your inventory. Because how we left off, if I run this thing, let me go and zoom in a little bit more. If I run this thing and I auto kill something, all right, so we killed a goblin, we can see there's a rusty sword in their inventory and we would like to pick it up. So if we do 0, we're going to be picking it up, and it will print right after this what's in our inventory, and it currently says none. All right, it currently says none. That is an issue. All right, it's not actually being picked up. So how can we go about figuring out what's going on here? Great question. I gave you guys a little bit of hint that add inventory is working. We are seeing things get added to our inventory, but run item here, if we hover over it, says that it returns nothing. It returns none. So that's why none is being added to our inventory. That's a potential issue, all right? Because we need to get the item from the loot bag, all right? From the loot menu. We already put up here that it's going to run, when we choose that item, it's going to run the takeout function on the inventory. And we're telling it which item to take out. But it's not happening. Well, a piece of it isn't happening. Particularly, it's not returning to us what we're taking out. So if we check out this item, by the way, shortcut for you guys, if you hover over your functions that you've made yourself and you hold down Control, you'll see they turn into hyperlinks. Well, a lot of this stuff turns into hyperlinks. If you click on it while holding Control on your keyboard, it will auto teleport you to where it is in your code. So you don't have to go searching around. Just a little fun tip there. So if we look right here, we can see that, of course, we're not going to get our item back because we're not returning anything. We're not giving that status report back. All right, we're not returning anything. If we don't return anything, it's going to have a return value of none in Python. That's the default. So we want to return some stuff. Particularly, we want to return whatever we end up running here in our function. So to easily resolve this, we can say return on both of these, because both of these are running the function. One is running it with nothing in it, and the other one is running it with some type of parameter in it. And those planes are loud again. Of course, every time. All right, so that is literally it. You remember, no one has to do anything with this status report. and everything is always going to return none by default. So even if it doesn't, like a print statement, for example, doesn't return anything, it will return none because everything will always return none. We don't have to do anything with it. A return is like a report. Most reports never get read, all right? They get ignored, put on a pile, a stack pile beside you, and then thrown in the trash, all right? Come on, have you ever done anything for like filing at the DMV or anything with the Gov? Come on, no one reads anything you give them, right? It goes in a stack and then disappears, and then you have to pay to refile. Oh, the beauty, the beauty. All right, so that actually solves the issue 90% of the way. 90% of the way. It was just adding that. We'll do it. We can see it if we go over to our main and we click on the play button. We got to end our last game. Let me go and close all these out. If we do I need to? No, I don't think I need to. All right, so let's go and click on the play button. Let's start a game by pressing 0. You'll see there's a rusty sword. Let's press 0 to pick up the rusty sword. And we can see now, look at that. We currently now have the weapon in the inventory. We're getting the same printout that we did yesterday when we were programming our new code here. So you guys should hopefully know how to possibly resolve this. Because again, this is what happens when we print an object itself without the parentheses, all right? So this is an object itself without any parentheses, so we could just get a pointer to where all that data is in memory, all right? This is not what we want to print out. We want to print out the name of it, which is .name. It's weapon.name. So if we go over to our inventory right here where we're printing things out, same thing, we'll have to do a .name right here in order to print out the name. So if we rerun this again, do 0, and then pick up that rusty sword, you'll see we now have the rusty sword in our inventory. It's no longer a none. All right, it's no longer a none. If we pick up this rusty sword, you'll see we have 2 rusty swords in our inventory now. But there's an issue. What if I type in nothing? Well, we get an error. I guess that's an issue. I guess this kind of makes sense. We'll get an error now. All right, because it's trying to print weapon.name. All right, weapon.name, which is an issue. There's a couple ways we can resolve this, but let's assume right now, because in our game right now, you can only find and pick up weapons. So let's just assume that and move forward for right now. Since we're going to assume that they're only going to be able to pick up weapons because that's the current state of our game, then this will always be the print logic we need here. So let's read this error and see what's going on. None type object has no attribute name. None type object has no attribute name. Very interesting. This means that there was a variable, in this case an item, that was in our inventory that was of type none. All right, none. It was of type none, a none type. All right, a none type doesn't have anything called .name on it because it's none. It's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. It's just nothing. There's nothing. All right, I don't know how I can say that enough. So of course it doesn't have anything. So we have an issue right now where things are being added to our inventory that are none, that are nothing, because again, we didn't pick up, what caused this error is we didn't pick up the sword. But this is always going to run every single time and try to add an item to our inventory every single time, even if the return itself is none. That is an issue. We don't want none items in our inventory. So there are a couple ways we can go about doing this. The best thing to do would be in add here. If we do control and then click on add, we can go here to our add functionality in our inventory, because no inventory in our entire game should ever have none, right? Should never have a none. So we can just do, excuse me, a quick check here. if the new item is none, then just return. All right. What does return do? Return can only be used on functions. That's right. Functions, methods, whatever you want to call them. Def. Anything with def in front of it in Python, you can use return inside of it. This will immediately end. All right. Immediately end this method. All right. It will stop it in its tracks. It will not go further down the code base. This says no more. All right. And it will return a status report. When you have nothing in front of return, it will return none. You could also say return none. These are both equivalent. All right. We're just going to say nothing at all. All right. Because it implies none. So if they're trying to add a none item to our inventory, we're just not going to allow it. It's just going to end the add process. It's never going to add that item at all. So now if we go back and play our game and we start, and we'll pick up this rusty sword. So now we have the rusty sword in our inventory, and this time I won't pick up anything. So I'll just press enter. You'll see that rusty sword didn't get added to our inventory. All right, that second rusty sword didn't get added to our inventory, but neither did none. And we didn't error out this time. All right, we didn't error out this time. So that was the completed challenge. All right, the completed challenge was you have to modify this, the run item. You just had to add return on both of these. And then for adding, you were going to get that error. So you have to add, it didn't have to be here. You could have done it multiple ways, but this is one way of solving it, right? This is one solution for it. Any questions on that? Come on, you have the code. You literally have access. I literally posted the code for you. All right. Any questions before we chug along here on how this magic was done? So just remember, we're going to be doing a lot of these examples, right? A lot of these examples. Code in, something is not working right for me. Well, that's very vague. You got to put the error somewhere. So put it inside of the 100 days rootkit chat, because I can't really help you if you just say there's an error. You got to put the whole error into the chat, you guys. You got to put the whole entire error, all right? Because when you get an error sometimes, just sending me this doesn't make any sense sometimes, all right? You got to include the whole error, all right? Like I've said multiple times to you guys, when you look something up, do not just look at the first thing and call it good. Read the whole page. Read the whole page. You're probably going to find something that's better along the lines. Additionally, for your errors, do not just read this bottom part. This will help you 90% of the time. All right? No, maybe it's more like 60% of the time. You need all of this, though. All right? You need all of this, and you need to look at all of it. And you need to start understanding it in order to solve your issues. Are you guys going to be posting? All right, we're going to chuck forward until you guys post whatever you guys are going to post into the 100 days of rootkit chat so we can look at it. All right, so let's go ahead and look at our design doc, shall we? We have now added weapons. We don't have XP. There is drop loot. Not really a drop loot table, so we'll say kind of. because right now they only drop one type of loot. No scoring system, no level system. There we go. If enemy dead, we have that done. The ability to loot an enemy, we have that done. We don't have a way for letting players use any items. If a player dies, we got some logic here. All right. So looking at this, let me see. All right, there we go. So it says that your, again, self, let's look at this error. Let's look at this error together. Error. All right. So we got this error right here, right? So let's go through looking at this error. We can start at the bottom here that says there's an index error. Pop from empty list. So we have a couple indicators going on right here. Number one, pop from empty list. Pop from empty list means that we were trying to run pop on what? An empty list. All right. So we got an index error because index, remember, is the index of everything. If I'm looking at a book and I tell you to go to page 1, that would be the index, page 1. We got an index error because page 1 doesn't exist. It does not exist at all because the list is completely empty. So you tried taking an item from a completely empty list. All right, so that is the current issue right now. That is the current issue. So there's a couple ways we can go about remedying this, because what I'm assuming is that you are missing, because right now I have it so every single mob item or mob, so goblin that's generated has a weapon in it. I'm pretty sure I'll get the same error if we don't have it so they don't get a weapon in their inventory. So let's go ahead and rerun this. And let's see. So start game. There we go. We just got an error, slightly different, right? Slightly different, but the same issue, all right? The same issue. So pretty much it's because we're trying to add things. So type error inventory dot add missing one. Okay, because we're running this right here, add, and we're not adding anything. So that's the error right here, because add requires a new item. So let's remove this and then rerun our game. And let's go and start. And there we go. We're at selected, and this is where we select an item from the inventory, but nothing is here. I don't even get that error. So I guess we're safe from that right now. Because if alive for, yeah, because this generates it, this displays it. Regardless, we got an issue right here that's going on. It's not causing error on mine, but it is bringing up the select menu even if they don't have anything in their inventory. So we can do some modifications to the code on that. Let's go and relook at this. So the issue right now is that you're trying to pop from an empty list. So this weapon, so you setting your weapon with inventory.takeout is causing the issue. So make sure that you're generating a weapon and you're putting it in the inventory before you're popping it out, because that is what I have here on mine, which I sent you. Where is it? Right here. We're adding an inventory item to our inventory, and then we are taking it out. If there was nothing in our inventory to begin with, takeout would error out, because it'd be like, what do you mean? There's nothing in the bag. Let's see, on the other one, type error init missing one. All right, so let's go and grab this. And let's look at this, not this doc, this error. All right, so this error, type error. What does type error mean? It means the type of your variable. all right? It doesn't like the type of your variable. So init, so we know this is attached to a class because init only exists within classes. And init automatically runs when we create an object. That's right. It's missing one required positional argument called damage. All right? It's missing one required argument called damage. So if we look up here above, we can see that there's an issue. All right, you guys got to start reading this yourself. All right, these are low baby level errors. All right, low level baby errors. You guys gotta do this yourselves. If we look here, we're adding something to our inventory, which is fine, and then our weapon. Well, the weapon is the only object that we're currently creating. And when we create an object, we're running the underscore init. All right, underscore init. And it says we're missing one required argument called damage. You may say damage is right here. What do you mean? It's not missing. It is missing because the whole thing here is wrapped in double quotes. So this is only one argument. All right, you just have a sentence here called rusty sword, 5. So to fix this, you need to remove that quote at the end and put it right here, and that will fix it. Alrighty. Let us chug along here. Alright. So, we have our game. It is working. We know a current bug that's here right now in regards to our inventory. So it's best if you don't want to do that or fix that bug at any given time, you should do a to-do, or else you should fix that bug. All right, you need to either write it down and document it somewhere or fix the bug. So right now, we'll just do a to-do here. To-do, fix bug with empty inventory for enemy spawning the menu. All right, so we'll add that. Before we go any further, we've done a lot of changes here. So let's go ahead and push up our changes. All right, let's commit everything that we're doing because we've gone quite a long time without committing. So we should definitely commit. All right, we should definitely commit. So let's bring up our command line here and let's do our git add all. All right, git add all. Let's before we do that, let's make sure. All right, this was a auto-generated. So let's actually talk about a couple things here. You should have had a auto-generated .git ignore get spawned. All right, if you followed everything I was saying when we were making this repo. If not, there's one major thing you need to add. This line right here, the PyCache line. You'll see, some of you, you'll see this PyCache folder spawn. All right, this PyCache folder spawn. What is this PyCache folder? That's a great question. Python is an interpreted language, all right? It's a scripting language, which means that it is interpreted on the fly. The computer literally reads it just like you and I would. And then it's brought down to a computer level, a bytecode level, where then it can be executed on, all right? It's brought down to those ones and zeros. PyCache is pretty much a compiled version of your Python program. All right, so it will run very, very fast because it doesn't need to do the initial interpretation, etc., etc. So this is basically a faster, more optimized version of your code. If you make any changes and then run them, it will not be using the PyCache version of your code because those were new changes, so they need to be also compiled and then added here. So this will be, you'll see the benefits of rerunning your, when you rerun your code, you'll see speed improvements if you have PyCache going on. This is something that will happen automatically behind the scenes for you. You don't need to do anything yourself. You'll see that these files are going to be literally called the same thing as your files in your folder, except with CPython at the end instead of just Py. All right. So let's continue on here. So we're going to put a to-do for fixing the inventory. All right, and then let's go ahead and finish up with our commit. You want to make sure you're not committing the PyCache folder, all right? Because it's compiled data, and you shouldn't really ever be pushing compiled data. But additionally, it's only useful for your computer on the on the current version of code, and just don't include it. All right, have people generate their own PyCache for their own system. All right, you don't know what version of Python they're using or what OS they're on. There's just a whole mess of things that can go wrong because it is compiled, so it's going to have issues. All right, it's going to have issues on different systems because, again, their architecture, their processor is going to be different, which means it requires different bytecode operations. All right, CISC and RISC are not equivalent, or CPUs are not equivalent. They are not compatible with each other out of the box. And even worse than that, CISC from AMD or from Intel are incompatible with each other. All right, they require different operations, so they're not going to work with each other out of the box. So don't include them. All right, do not include them. So I'm going to go ahead and do a git add all because I'm ignoring that file, and I need to be in the dungeons folder first. So let me go and cd into that one. All right, we'll cd into that dungeon crawler. Then we're going to do a git add all. We're going to add everything. We're going to do our git commit. We're going to say that we added combat and looting. So ideally you should be doing one commit for per thing. So we're kind of doing bad git commits right now because we're committing for combat and the looting logic. We should have made a commit for the combat stuff and then did another one just for the looting. But it's all right. As long as we are doing a commit eventually, we've saved the day. All right. Now let's go ahead and do a git push and push up all of our changes. Make sure that remote server is in check, and it is. And we've completed our git commit. Right. Hopefully none of that was a surprise for any of you guys. All right. So let's see here. What to do next? Probably some variation in our drop loot, right? Because right now we have it so I kind of removed it. Whoops. We have it so every goblin's going to drop basically the same weapon. All right, it's going to drop the same weapon. It's going to drop a rusty sword. So this is where we can introduce a concept of drop tables, because, for example, maybe goblins can drop up to between item 1 and 10. Maybe there's 10 items in total. There's potions, rusty sword, a sharp sword, a dagger, a machine gun. I don't know. It's your game, all right? But they can drop various different items, and then a boss would drop other items. Maybe there's some intertwinedness in between them, but there are, separate lists, right? That's the thing, is they're lists, all right? Whenever you have item 1, item 2, item 3, that's a list. And if you have a list, there's a way to make a list in programming, right? That's right. All right, so it's a list. So this is where you got to do some more thinking, all right? You got to do some more thinking because we have mob here, which is supposed to be for any potential enemy we come across, all right? So it might not be best to add a drop table with items in it to mob, because every single enemy will have that by default. Maybe we want to just include some default items in this and then customize it for the goblin class or the Yordle class or whatever we want to end up killing. All right? Notice class. right? Class, race, whatever you want to call it. Those are going to be different types of classes based off of mobs. So the answer is more classes. That's right. But before we do that, look at our code for a little bit. And look at our file name here. Our file name is called Fightable, which is for fightable objects. But in here we have other things like weapon. We have mob. We have a concept of like heroes. So things are starting to get kind of convoluted. All right, convoluted because this is supposed to be about fightable, and it is to an extent, but there's some items that are not in here that aren't really that appropriate. So keep this in mind, and you may want to do some sorting, move things around. Maybe change the name of this file from fightable to something else. Maybe give hero their own file. Maybe give mob their own file. Who knows? It's up to you. What I think we'll do here is we'll keep fightable in here, all right? And we'll move inventory to its own thing. We'll move weapon maybe to inventory, maybe its own thing. Hero to its own file. And mob not just to its own file, but to its own folder. Because there could be potentially a bunch of different villains, evil things that we want to create. So we might end up making lots of classes for them. So let's do some organization before we move forward here, all right? So we know that we want potentially, we might have like 50 bad guys, right, in our game. So to organize all that, we don't want 50 files right here and have to go through searching for things. So let's just make a folder in here, all right? Let's make a couple folders because let's organize, all right? Remember, we want to be lazy. Sometimes being lazy means doing some organization so that way when you look for things later on, it's easy for you to find it, right? It's easy for you to find it. You waste little time so you can get in, get out, and go watch some more Netflix, all right? If you have all of your files like how we have it right now, you might find yourself constantly confusing main and menu if you haven't already. I know I already have a couple times on stream. This is getting very, very confusing, all right? So we use organization to help us not get confused and to let us be more lazy. So what we can do is make a folder here, and we want to put everything that's not main into this folder. Because everything that's not the main game or the main program should go in this folder. This folder is typically called your library. All right, library or modules or whatever you want to call it, you can call it that. I'm going to call it library, which is usually going to be called lib. And you can see there's a special little icon that shows up with our icon pack that we have. Excuse me, because it's a very commonly used term. And I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop fightable into lib and menu into lib. There we go. So now I only have main.py right here on my main screen. I'm going to close all these other ones. You will notice there's a issue. There's an issue that's happening right now. If I run this, you'll see we have an error. No module named menu. No module named menu. What do you mean no module named menu? It's right here. And if you look in your editor, it's going to be very mad at you right here with menu and fightable. It's going to say it doesn't know what those things are anymore. That's true. It doesn't know what those things are anymore because this was referring to the file name. Of course, it was ignoring the .py because that's implied because you're trying to import Python code. But this was relative to where main.py was. It was in the same area. Now it's in a folder. How do we access our files that are in folders? That is a great, great question. Does it have to pull from library now? Yes, exactly. That is 100% correct. Now we have to pull from library. This is effectively a relative path, all right? Relative path. So we need to say that we want to pull from lib dot fightable, and this one is going to be lib dot menu, right? Because this is not a Python thing, but it is a folder, all right? And because effectively what we're doing here on import is we're importing a Python file, but it's a relative path. And instead of doing slashes, we do dots. All right. So we're doing lib.menu and lib.fightable. So now if we rerun this, you'll see that we're going to get an error, right? We're going to get some errors here. But the important thing here is the error is no longer what? It's no longer the imports, which means our imports are working correctly. What we're getting an error on now is our menu.menu. So let's go over to menu.menu right here. Why are we getting an error on this? Well, remember, before it was just called import menu. So if we wanted to get anything out of the menu file, we would just say menu.menu. But now, now it's called lib.menu. So if we want to use this, we have to say lib.menu.menu. This is very annoying, and that requires lots of typing. I'm a programmer. I'm lazy. I don't want to do lots of typing. This is where as comes very, very handy, right? Remember we talked about that a little bit. So as a reminder, is a way for you to rename these into a different variable name. So if we say as menu and we say this one as fightable, they are now, we no longer have to type this whole thing. We can just type menu and fightable, and you'll see the error has gone away here in our the little squiggly line on it. And if we rerun this, you'll see our game now works again. All right, our game now works again. This is really nice and this is really convenient. So if we were to put code in a folder, into folder, in a folder, and then want to import that, do you have an idea on how we would go about doing that? You're right, using relative path and more dots. We would say import.lib.new folder, .folder, .folder to however folder deeps it is, and then dot whatever the Python file is, Python file. All right, you can do this infinitely. All right, you can do this infinitely. There's one more thing that I'm going to introduce here. One more little concept, right? One more little concept. What happens if I do import lib? So let's go ahead and try that. Let me comment these out. What if I did import lib? Will that work? Well, if you see, if we run this, let me run this again. Menu is throwing the issue. So menu is throwing the issue right now. Let's say we want to be doing lots of work here. So let's say lib.menu and we run this. You're going to see that lib.menu is throwing a little error because you're like, menu or lib exists. Can I just import that folder and then get access to menu inside of it? Well, the answer is kind of. No, not by default. Not by default. And we can always do lib dot, and you can see what, doing that dot, you can potentially see what's a part of what you imported or whatever the class is, or etc, etc. If we do the dot, you can see that our menu in fightable doesn't show up, right? So by default, you can't just say import lib, right? You can't just say import lib. You can make inside of a folder, let me just delete this PyCache so no one gets confused by it. So in our folder here, we have fightable and menu, right? Fightable and menu. There is a special file that you can put in a folder that will make the folder act like a class, where you can then do .menu and .fightable, right? There's a special file you can add in it, all right? Anyone can guess what this special file is called or needs to be called, all right? You have seen this term before, all right? Lots. You've seen it a lot of time, all right? It has to do with classes, all right? It has to do with classes because effectively we're going to make Python treat this folder like a class. Any guesses? I would be surprised if someone was able to get it, unless you've dealt with it already before. All right, so we know that every time we make a class, there's pretty much the default things we need. We need to say what class we're creating, and we need a def init. The def init is what is used to construct that object, right? That def init is so powerful indeed that we can turn folders into classes by making a file called init.py. If we make a file called init.py, when Python imports this folder, by default, it will execute any code in this file. All right, it will execute any code in this file. Additionally, it will, so now you can see that if I do lib dot, you'll see there's actually a lot of stuff that now shows up in here. There's a lot of stuff that now shows up. And if we try to rerun our code, you'll see that we still get the same error though. We still get the same error. We've progressed, but we still have the same error. Why do we have the same error? Great question. We're running init.py, but we're making lib into a class. We're making this folder into a Python class, but we're not giving this class anything. As you can see here, when we do lib dot, this is everything that's underscore right here is pretty much the default things that you automatically get in a Python's class. So if we do something like string dot, you'll see at the end here, you get all those same items here. There might be a couple more in here, but you'll get all those same default items. The init file makes the folder a class. Yes, the init folder here makes this init file makes this folder into a Python class. So when we import it, it will act like a class. Init auto executes it. This file will automatically execute, will automatically run when we do import lib. All right, when we do import lib, it will automatically execute. I'm understanding. Yep, you are understanding me correctly. So since we want findable and menu to show up if we import lib, lib needs to know that findable and menu exist. All right, because now it's a class and it needs to know that other things exist in this class. What can we do in here? We can do something like import findable and import menu. Why can't we just do import findable and import menu? Well, since this is a class, then technically the init files inside of the lib folder, we can use the relative path of findable and menu since they're all in the same folder. And this will work. So now if we run this, you'll see that no module named findable. Okay, do I need to do a dot? Or maybe we needed to use lib. Can we do asterisk? Oh, do we need to use lib? Hold on. I swear there's another way we don't need to use lib. Because, okay, I guess before we move forward with that, let me show off this error real quick. Just kind of prove a point. When we run right now, you'll see that you'll see that an error will occur. What is this error, you say? It cannot import findable. But we aren't importing findable here in our main file. You're right. We're importing lib. And I told you that this underscore init inside of the lib folder is a very, very special file that will auto execute if you import this folder. When you execute this folder, it will automatically run this code. And as you can see right here, we have import findable, which is trying to auto execute and does not work, right? Does not work. I cannot remember right now the code for it. Is it just, I swear it was just a dot. It's yelling at me. I don't think it's gonna like that, but let me rerun this real quick. No. Oh man, I'm gonna die. So hold on one second. We gotta do some Googling. Python __ init.py. Right? let us look here and Google things when we don't remember them. This is... I would look at some reference code that I have in mind that I just did. Oh, it's from. Okay. From we can use the dot. I don't think we want to do that right now. So instead, we're just going to do what it wants me to do, which is basically it wants us to say lib dot on them and lib dot. All right. So why does it want you to say lib dot and lib dot? Because since we're importing lib and auto executing a init from this level, from this file, it needs the relative path from this file to these files. So when we run this now, you'll see it works. Everything is working a-okay now. Nothing is broken. And all we had to do is do our lib menu here. So this also allows and opens up the door for other things like from, lib, import, and we can import fightable. And we can import menu directly from this folder. So we can remove this, and if we rerun, you'll see that our game works just fine. So this is a way to potentially compress what is seen in your main, all right, in your main, because you're putting the code elsewhere. You're putting the code here. This is something that's very common and done all the time when you import stuff. It happens kind of auto magically behind the scenes. I want to show you guys this, and we're going to use it a little bit moving forward here, all right? But you don't have to use it to this extent. But you should know it exists and that it's a thing that you can do, all right? Hopefully this is implanted in your guys' brain now, and you can always refigure this out by Googling, all right? There's lots of examples if you go Googling how to utilize this. So I'm gonna keep our stuff in this format because I think it's a little bit cleaner and a little bit nicer. Additionally, we have the benefit of doing asterisks, right? We have the ability of doing asterisks if we want. It's by default not going to work too well for our code here. No, it does work well. Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. This should work just fine doing asterisks. This is just not really happy. Can I? No. Yeah, this is just not going to be very happy with you in the editor. So we're just going to keep it with menu and we're going to keep it with fightable for now. There's lots of things you can do with this to make it more complex or simple or whatever. So we're going to keep it like this. What is the pros for this? Why would you want to do something like this? Well, it's particularly if you're programming main up here, you might not want to worry about the folder structure. So effectively you're saying that the lib folder will be responsible for its folder structure and knowing where all the files are for everything. All right. So it's kind of just aggregating who's in charge of what. Is aggregating the right word there? I don't know. We're going to continue forward. So let's make a new folder inside of lib called mobs. All right. In the mobs folder, this is where all our mobs are going to be. So in here, we're going to make a file called mob.py. This is going to be where our default mob code lives. We can make another file in here called goblin.py. This would be anything that we do with our goblins, all right? Any adjustments we want to make to the mob stuff for our goblins. And you could keep adding new files in here for every single type of mob you want in your game. Is this required? No. This is organization. This is organization. This has nothing to do with what is required. When you look at big games, if you're ever analyzing or looking at other codes, maybe you downloaded a Unity project or a UDK project, or you looked at leaked source code for one of your games, you'll see there's thousands of files in there. There's thousands of files in there, not because they're required, it's because they're being used for organization, right? They're being used for organization. So same thing here. We've been doing everything in one file. It's been just fine. Now we want to organize, so we don't have to scroll through this and try to find where everything is, right? Because it's kind of weird that weapons right here smash between inventory and hero, and there's no organization. So now we're going to start removing stuff from Fightable and putting it into these files here. All right, let me remove this PyCache so you guys don't get too confused. I kind of want to get rid of these other folders here so you guys don't get confused also. So this Epic Games folder, I'm going to move all this stuff into old so you guys don't get confused on that either. So we're going to copy mob from Fightable. All right, I'm going to delete it from this file, go to mob here and paste it. Sweet, we've done that. We're getting some errors. Don't worry about that though. We'll fix this. We'll make it right. Additionally, we have Goblin here. All right, Goblin we won't mess with right now. All right, let's just finish up our organization first. So let's go back to Fightable, and we have Hero. All right, we have Hero. So let's make a new file inside of lib called hero.py. All right, so let's move Hero out of this into the Hero file. Let's go back to Fightable. We can go and erase Hero. Now we can look next. We have weapon. Well, most likely we're going to have, don't know what that error was for. Most likely we're going to have lots of weapons in our game. And there is the chance that they won't be, or they'll be building upon this base weapons class. So it might be most appropriate to do something like we did with mobs, right? Where we made a folder called mobs and then we put all of our mob stuff in here. So maybe we should make a new folder called weapons, and let's move it out of the mobs folder. And then we can make a file in weapons called weapon.py. And then our Fightable, we'll go and copy this weapon code, and then we'll put it in weapons.py. Let's go back to Fightable and look in here. We have inventory. So let's make a new file called inventory.py. This made it in the weapons, so I'll drag it out of weapons and go to Fightable. We'll copy the inventory code and then we'll put it inside of inventory. A lot of moving around. All right, I'm gonna give you guys a couple of seconds to catch up with that because I'm assuming you guys are scrambling around trying to copy and paste stuff. Don't worry about errors right now. We're just moving things around and organizing, right? We're just moving things around and organizing. Yeah, oh yeah, don't worry. We're going on break next, so we're not going to do anything new. Just the organizing stuff right now. So you guys got plenty of time. The big thing is now, I mean, as you're doing this, and you should be seeing things shaping up and looking a little nicer, maybe a little bit more organized, right? Maybe a little bit more organized, which is the whole point, the key benefit. Now we could go a little bit further because in your lib, you'll have the Fightable class, hero, inventory, and menu. So you may want to maybe organize those ones also. You know, depending on your OCD level, you'll figure out real quick how you want to organize and how in depth you want to organize things. All right, completely up to you. Because again, at the end of the day, programming, Wild West, no rules, regulations. You can do whatever you want to do. Right? You can do whatever you want to do. It's totally on you. So if you want to make things super organized, you can. If you don't, that's fine. It's best to do some type of organization because it will make you, it will allow you to be, again, what do we want? We want to be as lazy as possible. That's right. So we can go binge watch stuff on YouTube. So if you do this now, you can benefit later. This may seem a little overkill right now. And probably. Because our game is so small. But what this allows us to do is easily scale, modify, add to our game without adding too much static noise, too much, craziness where we have to scroll through files, we don't know where everything is, etc., etc. All right? It's very important that you guys spend time doing this. All right, any questions so far before we go on break? And that should buy you guys a little bit more time for moving things around. Again, I guess I'll open this up. Again, I have a mobs folder. So inside a lib, I have a mobs folder and a weapons folder. Inside of mobs, I have the mob file and a goblin file, which the mobs file holds the mobs class, and goblin has absolutely nothing in it. In weapons, I have the weapon file, which has the weapon class, and that is it. And then at the top here, I made the heroes file, which holds hero. I have the inventory file, which holds the inventory, and I have a menu file, which we've already had. So let me see if we can get a good example here of this. Let's go ahead and check out YOLO. You can do this with any GitHub repo. I don't know why, but YOLO v5 came up to the top of my head. So if we look at this one, we can see they have a bunch of folders here, right? They have a bunch of folders here. One's called utils. So we'll click on there. What does util stand for? Utilities. So you can see here they have a bunch of files inside of utilities, but they have more folders in here. One called AWS, one called Docker, one called Flask, one Google, one Logger, one Segment. If you were on this team, all right, if you were on this team and you were told to modify something for the logging, you can now intelligently try to figure out where you're supposed to go. If we go in this folder, we see the loggers folder. All right, this is not for wood logging, all right? This is for file logs, all right? We can go inside the loggers folder, and in here we can see even more folders for even more organization of our logging. So do we need to do for ClearML, for Comet, or for WANDB? All right, maybe it was WANDB. We'll click in here, and then we can see the WANDB utils file, and then we can just modify this code, all right? Same thing if I told you you need to go modify the Flask REST API stuff. You can see there's a folder in here. You click on that, and then you can see, oh, REST API. I'll just modify that. All right, it makes it really nice and organized. None of these are required. They are put here intentionally by the developer in order to give order to things, in order to give organization to things. All right, think about like a big office space, right? Imagine if there were no filing cabinets. The filing cabinets are not required to run a business. The filing cabinets are there in order to give order and make it easier for people to look things up. Because again, everyone wants to be lazy at the end of the day. If I worked at a law firm and files were just stacked from the ground to the ceiling, I have to spend hours every day looking for what I want. Compared to it being in a file cabinet, I can just look really quickly at the dividers and see what and find exactly what I need to find. All right, we all want to be lazy. All right, so use these. All right, I think that's enough stalling. We're gonna go on break for 3 to 5 minutes, and then we'll be back. Hopefully, you guys will be good and have everything organized the way you want it. All right. If you don't have it exactly like mine, that's fine. All right, you can organize this however you want. You can do more organization, you can do less, it's up to you. All right, so I'll see you guys back in 3 to 5 minutes. Alrighty. We are back. Alright, hopefully that was a long enough break for anyone that was still trying to sort out everything. Don't worry, you still got another like minute or two as I finish up our intro here. So if you're just joining in, just in case you didn't know, we are Rootkit, nonprofit here based in the US of A. We do a lot of things for free, like 100 Days Rootkit, where we're teaching you everything you need to know in order to get our CompSci cert. Alright, our CompSci cert. Our CompSci cert is now on Credly alongside with Amazon, Microsoft, I don't know, name generic big tech company. They're going to have all their certs on this platform. And we have ours too. It allows you to easily generate a link and then put that on your LinkedIn, which is instantly verifiable to anyone that's going to be looking at your profile. All right. Additionally, we have our active volunteer badge on here additionally. So if you do volunteer for our organization, you can earn yourself this badge. It is active for a year after your last meaningful contribution. Additionally, on top of all this free stuff we're doing, we have our giveaway. All right, week 8 giveaways going on right now. All you have to do is press this big green button right here to sign up, and then you just need to verify you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, following us on Twitch, and various other tasks that cost absolutely no money. If you like what we're doing and you want to help support us, doing things for free is very, very expensive. Go figure. All right. Depending on how much you donate, you can unlock certain rewards like our epic stickers, collab t-shirt, or even get this epic exclusive 100 Days of Rootkit sweater. All right, even says Rootkit at the back, only available during 100 Days of Rootkit. All donations are being matched 1-for-1 for the first 10,000 donations. Additionally, we have pillars along the way, like 24-hour streaming straight, shaving my head here live on stream, and the one no one wants to see, all right, me shaving my beard. This can be just horrendous, all right, horrendous. All right, so hopefully all y'all are caught up. So there's a couple of errors that have popped up. If you haven't seen it, you can see on mine, they're yellow files, all right? They're going to be this squiggly line that says, fightable is not defined. It doesn't know what fightable is. This one's going to say, it doesn't know what weapon is. This doesn't know what inventory is. There's going to be a bunch of issues, all right? We have to resolve these issues. Why are these issues here? Great question. It's because this is no longer one file with all those other classes in it. So we have to do some importing, right? We have to do some importing in order to make sure everything is hooked up again, all right? So this is why it's important to figure out the structure you want to go with early on so you can avoid these kind of issues here. Because again, importing is typically going to be based off your relative path, and so if things are moving around, your relative path is going to be messed up and you have to do lots of changing of your importing. Kind of like Kote said here in the 100 Days chat, he hates the Python import system. I am not the biggest fan of it either, but you know, it gets the job done. All right, it gets the job done. Technically, lots of other languages also do it based off relative path, but they have a slightly more structured system. Are you deleting the PyCache? I'm deleting it so you guys can see more clearly what I have here without the distraction of the PyCache. You don't need to delete the PyCache folder. You can basically ignore it. There's going to be lots of PyCache folders that are going to generate for you now. There's most likely going to be a PyCache folder in the mobs folder, in the weapons folder, in the libs folder, and outside the libs folder. Just ignore them, all right? Just ignore the PyCaches. They do nothing there. They're just like innocent bystanders that are just watching, right? Peering eyes. So let's go ahead and start figuring out some of these import issues. Well, Fightable is in the same area as Hero. So this is the first question we need to ask ourselves is what files go right here, right? What files stay right here? Because technically Fightable could go into its own folder or one of these folders. Inventory could go into a folder, maybe along with the menu. That's totally up to you. I think we've done enough organization for now. So let's just show how it will work like this. It's up to you on if you want to organize it further. So inside of Hero, we're missing Fightable. We need to now import Fightable. Fightable can be found in the Fightable file. The Fightable file has the Fightable class, and both these files are in the same folder at the same tier, the location tier. So we can just straight up do import Fightable, right? But this won't be sufficient enough per se, because now we have to do Fightable because remember we have to go into that file and then extract out the Fightable class. So this is why something like from is usually preferred, right? Because we can say from that Fightable file import the Fightable class. So now we don't need to change anything in our code, right? We don't need to change anything in our code because we can just import that Fightable class directly from the file. So if we move on here, the next thing we're missing is our inventory. Well, inventory is right here. So let's go ahead and do from inventory. So that inventory file, I want to import that inventory class from that inventory file. Next is going to be weapon. So we know weapon is going to be in the weapons folder. So we can do the same thing from weapons, weapons dot, so weapons plural was the weapons folder. Weapon singular is the file. And we want to import weapon, the class, from within that file. All right, so we can do that here. So things are looking good right now. They're looking pretty bright, right? We've imported everything we need to import in order to get this class up, working, and operational. So let's see if we have any errors in any of these other files. Nope, we're just clicking through them to see. Nope, nothing in here. We would know because we would see the yellow here on the side, and also we'd see those squiggly lines. Mobs is already yellow, so I'm guessing there's an error in there. If we click on mob.py, we can see there is an issue with this because it wants Fightable, inventory, and weapon. So let's go ahead and import those same way using from. But wait a second. Those are above the current folder that we're in. How are we supposed to import them? Well, that is a great question, right? That is a great question. You can import them by using relative path. So for example, by doing ... that will take you up a folder, and you can see here, now we have access to things like weapons, right? We have access to things like weapons, and now we can say weapons, import weapon with a capital. Why is, whoops, not weapons, sorry, fightable, import fightable. All right, and this one is going to be from inventory, import inventory, and then from weapons weapon, import weapon. This looks kind of crazy and chaotic. You're right. Will it even work? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see in a second. All right, we'll see in a second, because this kind of seems chaotic. It seems a little crazy. It seems almost insane to a certain extent, and you are correct on that. All right, you are correct on that. So let's see here. All right, how do we? Let's run this. Let's run our main.py, since we don't see any errors in here, and see what's going on. So let's run this. It looks like everything's running. All right, let's press 0 to start our game. And we're gonna run into some issues right here. All right, module lib.fighter has no attribute hero. All right, has no attribute hero. What is going on here? Great question, right? Fightable has no attribute hero on fightable.hero. Remember, we changed everything. We changed everything. So fightable, that master file, fightable, no longer contains the hero. It's now that hero file that contains hero. So we would need to now import hero. And we're going to need to go to our code, and we're going to need to say hero. And we can see if that one works. If we rerun this, from fightable, import fightable. There we go. This is the next error. So now we're going to run into another error, right? We're going to run into another error. Once we try to import hero and we change this so it's hero.hero, we're going to run into another error, right? It's going to say from fightable, import fightable. What is going on here? My head is hurting. From fightable, import fightable. There is no fightable, import fightable, fightable, all this fucking fightable. Holy crap. Yeah, I know, right? Don't worry. We've invoked cancer on ourselves on purpose, right? It's for a reason. You can see that we're getting an error. We don't know why. There is no line like this in our main.py. This is why it's important to read the entire error. This is the entire error. If we read up this a little bit more, you'll see that this error is coming from hero.py, right? It's coming from hero.py. It's not coming from our main. And you can see it's coming from line 1, right? It's coming from line 1. So if we go to hero.py and look at line 1, here's our issue. Now you might be asking yourself, why is this erroring out? Because fightable is on the same line, all right? And we can import fightable, right? That doesn't make any sense. Well, the answer is that main.py is what's starting the program. Everything that's relative path, relative pathwise, is based on itself. It's based on the main.py file. So all of these relative paths we've just added were actually useless because they're only relative to the file itself, to this hero file itself, or to this mob file itself. It's not relative to everything else, right? It's not relative to everything or anything else, I should say. So how do we fix this? We just spent all this time doing these relative paths, etc., etc., etc. My brain is about to break. Great question. There is a simpler way to go about this. Some type of structure, some type of order we can go about implying all this. You can utilize something like the lib folder to your advantage. You can use the lib folder to be the middleman, right? To be the middleman in all of this chaos, right? It will be the middleman of communication to your main.py and will tell your main.py where everything lives, where everything exists, etc., etc. That's where this init.py comes into power, all right? Because this that gets auto-executed can be our middleman, all right? It can dictate where everything is and how we go about communicating with all these files that we have. So what we can do in here instead is we can change all of these imports. So instead, they are based off of they start at the lib folder level. So what do I mean by that? We go in here and we say lib.fightable, and we say lib.inventory, and we say lib.weapons, right? We all start it at the lib section. And do we have any in here that we need to do? Nope. In this one, in our init that gets auto executed, this is our end all be all. We need to add all the files that will be automatically given, all right, automatically given to the program when we run and execute this folder, when we import this folder. So we'll go ahead and say lib dot, we got fightable, we got menu, we can say inventory, we can say import lib dot hero, we can say import lib dot weapons dot weapon, we can say import lib dot mobs dot mob, we can say import lib dot mobs dot goblin. All right, we can go about saying everything we want to auto import. All right, so menu, inventory, hero, weapon, mob, goblin. All right, just make sure these last names don't really collide with each other, or else you may run into any issues. All right, the last thing we need to change is the mobs file, because this one has the last little relative paths in here. So in here we'll say lib dot mobs dot this is supposed to be fightable, so lib dot fightable. All right, this one will say lib dot inventory, and this one we're going to say lib dot weapons dot weapon. All right, so everything, all of our paths are going to start from the lib folder. Now again, if I didn't make this clear enough, this only works because the lib folder has a init.py in it. So it's being treated like a Python class. And since it's being treated like a Python class, all of these other Python files are able to get looped up inside of it. All right, and it makes it work properly. If I were to remove this, and by removing it, I'm just going to rename it to a different name, and we were to look at these files, they should throw an error, and they're not right now, so never mind that. Let's change this back to init. So now, since we have all of this added to our init in here, that's a part of our lib folder, it's our middleman. All right, it's going to be our little middleman for our main.py. So now we can properly go in here and say hero. And we could say other things like, we got menu from it. I guess we need goblin, right? Well, goblin's being made right here. I think we're actually good right now. So this should work. If we rerun this. All right, we still getting a, let me rerun this. We're still getting an issue here in the hero file for fightable. I thought we fixed this. Hero file, fightable, lib.fightable. From fightable, Okay. Okay. So this is where PyCache can be potentially cancerous, because you can see right here the hero file line 1 is now lib.fightable import fightable, but this one says that it says from fightable.import. So these are not the correct ones. These are not the correct, that's not the correct error for this file. Let's run it again and see if it will clear. No. So basically these are cases where you might have to delete PyCache because it's causing issues, and then let's rerun this and we're getting the same issue, of course. Why do you gotta do this to me? Is it because inside, oh, is it this one? It says hero. Why you gotta do this to me? Init line 4. Init line 4. Line 1. Do I have another import in here? Am I missing something? Why does it say from fightable, import fightable? It should be the whole line. Did I miss a PyCache? Oh, why you gotta do this to me? And this is why Kote hates the import system in Python. Did I not save? Because I see the little circle right here. I'm guessing I didn't save. Alright. So let me save and let's rerun this. Oh, look at that. I didn't save. Alright. Make sure you're saving, you guys. See, I told you, was it, I can't remember, was it Kamal earlier on when we were doing this? Look, everyone forgets to save and gets errors sometimes and are very confused, alright? That was a good couple of minutes where I was sitting there like, didn't know what I was like doing for a second. I was like, what? This doesn't make any sense. It's because I didn't save the file, alright? So don't feel bad about it, alright? We all mess up the simple things sometimes, like saving. Alright, but now if we look and we see my game is working correctly. Alright, my game is working correctly. Let's go and start the game. Alright, we got an issue right here. So fightable.mob, so there's some old logic here we need to change because mob is no longer inside of fightable. So if we look in, it's going to be a part of main.py line 26. So let's go ahead to line 26. Here we go. Fightable.mob. This now is just going to be mob. Mobs. What do we want to import here? Mob, right? Will that work? Import mob. Import mobs. Why is it not showing up in green? That one work? Not really. Are you really gonna make me? Alright, so it's gonna make me do this instead. So what we gotta do here is we gotta go we gotta do our from lib.mobs import mob. Why is mobs not highlighted? Oh, because it wants an init.py in it. So this is gonna work just fine. We need to change mob down here. Let me rerun this. There we go. And let's pick things up. All right, looks good. Now we can run. All right, everything's working again. So this you can see it's not happy with because it wants basically an init.py inside of the mobs folder and the weapons folder also. So generally it's just a good idea, even if you don't put anything inside of it, right? Even if you don't put anything inside of it, show up now, please, for the love of God. There we go. Now you can see it shows up in green. If you're not, even if you're not putting anything inside of the init.py, it's best to include it. All right, it's best to include it so it shows up properly here. Right, so it shows up as green here, and because Python only likes Python things. Oh God, see, now it shows up on this one. Python only likes Python things, so it wasn't acting well, or it was being kind of weird before because of the, what do you call it? Because it didn't have a init.py in the folder. All right, so include that. You don't have to, because you can see our game was running just fine without it. It's not required because it's all relative path stuff, but you should in order to get the maximum amount of support. All right, you should to get the maximum amount of support. So now we can see our game is running, it works, it's functional, and we just had to add a couple adjustments here on a main.py. So I have right now 2 different lines for importing everything. You could also just have this as 1 line, right? I think, yeah, you would only be able to import mob or mobs right here. So you would have to change this down here, wherever our goblin is being made. This would have to be mobs.mob. It's still freaking out on that one. So it'd be it's best just to do a second line, right? Second line. So anytime you go into a deeper folder, you're gonna get the maximal support from your editor if you just go on each line, do which one you want, like a folder deeper. There are ways to, I think if we set up in this one, if we do import lib dot mobs dot goblin, is this the correct structure? I can't remember. I'll have to look at my notes here. I feel like this is slightly off. Would this one now work? Mobs dot. Yeah, this one would now work. Kind of. All right, so this is where you can, if you want to dive deeper into this stuff, it's always best to do the Googlings or to, where's the other one? Look at other things, right? Look at other things or how other people do stuff. So for example, on YOLO, we can go over, is it in models? I don't think it's in models. Was it utils? Maybe it's just utils. Segment. We can look at their init.py, see what they did. They didn't do anything inside of theirs. We can look at their imports here. Doesn't look like these are importing anything relative to each other. They're doing just straight up relative pathing on their stuff. So this could run into issues depending on where you're running this. So I guess this isn't the best example, but I digress. All right. So rule of thumb moving forward, if you guys are going to import something from a different folder, it's best just to make a new line, right? Make a new line for from to do that importing, all right? Hopefully y'all got this working, right? And it's running. Again, this is Python, this is programming. There's 1,000 different ways to go about your importing and different ways to get it running and doing what you need to do. It's up to you on how you want to do it, all right? This is going to be some of the most stable or stablest ways you can go about doing it. So I'd recommend this, but it's totally up to you on how you want to go about it. All right. So now that we have this going, we wanted to finish up with our drop tables. We wanted our goblin in particular to be inheriting mob, but to have its own drop table. All right. So it's inheriting from mob, but it's going to have its own drop table. All right. So what should we do for goblin here? Well, we need to import mob, right? So import lib.mobs.mob, and we're going to do our inheritance. So we're going to make a class, and we're going to call this the goblin class, right? So this is what we're going to use to spawn our different types of goblins. We're going to be inheriting from here. So we're going to be inheriting mob, but remember, we can't just type in mob. We have to type in this whole name unless you do an as. If you do as, then we can do mob right here. And so that way it's alias to a new name called mob. Then we can do our next step, which is what we always do, underscore underscore init. There we go. I can press tab and it will auto type this out. This is our return. This is return typing. All right. So I'm going to keep this here because we're going to, after C, we're going to really start doing lots of typing. All right. And remember, if we're inheriting, okay, this is not correct because this is the mob file. All right, let's just change this from an import to a from this file import mob. And now we can change this to mob. There we go. Remember, if we're inheriting, we got to run that super. We got to run the old stuff because we're replacing the old init with this brand new init. All right. We're replacing the old init with the brand new init. All right. So a part of our mobs, let's go to our mob file. All right. Let's go to our mob file because our mobs themselves, we want to, they should have a drop table. All right. They should have a drop table. And if they have a drop table, we should be able to generate what item is then given. So for example, if inside of this table of potentially droppable items, when you kill this person, they could drop any of these items that you can then pick up. Maybe we only want one of those items to drop, right? So let's say it's a potion, a dagger, and a hat. We should have potentially a function, all right, some type of function that will automatically choose one of those items for us at randomly. So maybe it's called drop, all right? Maybe it's called drop. So at mob itself, we know that all mob creatures will have a drop table. So we can say drop table equals empty list. And these drop tables are going to be empty lists with items inside of them that they can drop. And these mobs should have a way to automatically choose an item from the drop table and drop it for us to then pick up, potentially pick up. So we're going to say def spawn drops, right? Because we're going to spawn these drops based off our drop table when they die. So in here, we want to spawn some drops, all right? And in here, we need to put a self in here, right, before moving forward. We're going to want to return a list of potential items that are on the drop table. Because right now, if we look at our main.py logic, you can see that we're just looking at everything that's in their inventory, all right? Everything that's in their inventory is potentially up for grabs. Instead of everything that's in their inventory, well, we could use the inventory system. We could have it so that when they first spawn, it will look at the drop table and then automatically choose items in there to stuff in their inventory. And then we can use our past system, right? That seems like it would be reasonable. So we could still use spawn drops to automatically choose what in the drop table gets added to it. So if we do our spawn drops here, we're going to say, so everything in the drop table will be things that they could potentially have in their inventory, and spawn drops will add things to their inventory that they can now drop. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. In here, we'll say, we want it to be random, so we're going to import random, right? Because we want to randomly choose items. We're going to want to, let's say only one item from the spawn, from the drop table gets chosen at any time right now. So we're going to go ahead and do random.randInt. This is going to be from 0 to a number. So 0 to a number. What is this number? It's going to be the length of our drop table, because we don't know how many items that we're going to need to, how many items we need to pick from, right? So this is going to be from 0, the beginning of our table, to whatever end of our table there is. Currently our table is completely empty, so this would cause an error, but don't worry, our goblins will have stuff in their table. So we want to choose a number between 1 and 0. That will be whatever item. It will be to whatever items in our drop table. So this will be the item index equals, and then we now want to add this item to our inventory, so we can say self.inventory.add, and then we can add that item from the drop table, so self.drop table, and we want to do the item index. There we go. So, and we want this to auto run when we spawn a new character, so we can add it inside of a init. So if we do self.spawn drops, we can run that right here. So ordering is important, because remember, we're going to be reading from top down. The Python program reads from top down also. So if this drop table does not exist, this will error out. So if this was before our drop table, this is going to cause an error, because drop table doesn't exist when we use it down here. So drop table is required to exist first. This will cause an error also right now, because our drop table is completely empty. So this logic is not going to like it very much, but don't worry about that too much right now, because we're only going to be spawning goblins, which will have filled out drop tables. Maybe we should run, maybe we won't run spawn drops right here. All right, we're going to remove that line, because I think it's going to run into too many issues for us in regards to this parent class. So we'll just have spawn drops right here. And let's go over to our goblin. All right, let's go over to our goblin. So our goblin right here has everything that the mob class has, especially when we run the super.init. It now has an empty drop table array. So inside of that empty drop table array, we can go ahead and add some items to their potential drop table, to what they can potentially drop. All right. So if we go right here, we can say self.dropTable.append. This is how we add new items. We want to add some new weapons. All right. We want to add some new weapons that they can potentially drop. All right. So the weapons we don't have access to right now. We got to import the weapons. So we got to go up here to the top and say from lib.weapons plural weapon import capital weapon. All right. So let's go ahead and add a weapon to their drop table. Let's say weapon, and we need a name for the weapon and its damage. So let's call this a dagger, and it does 2 damage. We can copy this whole line and paste and paste and paste. So we'll add 4 different items to their drop table. So these are all items they could potentially have in their inventory when we come across them. So the next one, let's call this a knife. Knife. It does 1 damage. Let's call this one a machine gun. All right, it does 10 damage. And we'll call this one a nuke. These some crazy goblins, that's all I gotta say. And it does, I don't know, some obscene amount of damage, right? Some obscene amount of damage. So again, recap. Mob is a class that we made for all the things that we're going to fight, you know, that the hero is going to fight. Mobs have inventories. By default right now, they're spawning in with a rusty sword in their inventory. We can remove this, which we probably will here in a second, but I'll just keep it as a concept thing. And we have droppable tables. All right, droppable table. This droppable table or drop table is is everything we want to potentially be in their inventory when they die, that our player can then loot. All right. How do we choose which item from the drop table will be added to their inventory so a player can loot it? Well, we have this spawn drops function, right? Or method. It's plural for drops, plural, but we're not doing multiple drops. We're only doing one, but we have the option where we could change this so it could do multiple ones, all right? So the last piece we're missing right now is we aren't technically running spawn drops. So after we filled up our drop table here in our goblin, this is where we would want to do self.spawn drops. All right, this will automatically look at our drop table that we just made right here and then choose which one of these items are going to be stuffed into our inventory, the goblin inventory, so that way when we die it can potentially be looted, right? It can be potentially looted. So with all those changes, let's see if everything works. Let's go ahead and rerun this game. No module named mob, import mob, init python, mobs init python line 2. Did I not save again? Oh, oops, this one. There we go. So let's go ahead and take a look at our game. So if we start our game, all right, we've killed a goblin and it looks like a rusty sword has spawned. Maybe our drop tables aren't working right now because there's no extra item here, and there should be an extra item. But let's continue on and let's see. I'll go ahead and pick up the rusty sword. And we fight again, and we can see that, all right, looks like our drop tables are not working. What is going on? Great question. What is going on? This is where just because you get no errors doesn't mean there's not going to be bugs. So where do you start when there's a bug like this? Well, let's start from main.py and work ourselves down. So when we kill a goblin, we go to allow for looting. So let's read what's in here. All right. We know the loot menu is spawning. This is going to be looking at the goblin.inventory. Huh, interesting. Goblin.inventory. We just filled that goblin inventory up, didn't we? Well, let's go take a look at the goblin, for example. Let's just do a sanity check on it. If we look here, goblin has an issue. Goblin is being spawned from mob. It's not being spawned from our parent goblin class, all right? Our parent goblin class. So that is the issue, all right? That is the issue with our code, all right? So make sure you look at your code, question everything. You got to get good at asking questions, all right? At asking questions. Why is this working? And doing sanity checks on yourself, all right? I know you think yourself of pretty good, knowledgeable, never wrong person, all right? That's fine. Trust yourself, but also check yourself, all right? Literally check yourself in what you're thinking and seeing if your logic is true, because sometimes you'll fool yourself, all right? You'll do stuff like this where it's working, you don't know why it's not working, but it's because you didn't do the little last bit of connection right here. So let's go ahead and do our from lib.mobs import goblin, right? Import goblin. Now we can change this right here to goblin.goblin. Why are you doing this to me? Oh gosh. Import. Did I spell this right? Why are you doing this to me? Oh, it's because of the init. So it will work just fine. Like I said before, it's just not giving me the autofill because it wants the init to have the file in it. So, well, we have mobs.goblin in here. What is going on? Import lib.mobs.mob. Maybe it wants the mob in here also. Oh, whoops. Hold on. Mobs.goblin and then import goblin with a cap. There we go. Let's do that. So going to the goblin file, give me the goblin class. Let's just grab that. Let's go over here. There we go. Now we can run this. Run it again. There we go. We'll start the game. We killed someone, and look at that. A dagger has spawned from the drop table into here. Let's go ahead and pick up the dagger. Oh, look at that. A machine gun this time. I'll go and grab that. Oh, and now we have some error with our logic. All right, some error with our logic. You guys will get this error also eventually. All right, you guys will get this error also eventually. So, what I would like you guys to do, so again, if you are in the supporters chat, so if you are sub to us on Patreon or Discord Premium, I will be dropping all of these files in there. So you guys can start from what I have right here. And I will go through and add some more documentation, all right? Your guys' challenge now is there's an error. There's a bug in this code, all right? There's a bug in this code. I want you guys to find the bug and then patch it, all right? Find the bug and then patch it. There's no hints on this one, all right? It only requires a change of one line, but I want you guys to do some investigation because I guess the error is kind of pretty straightforward. When you finish that, so if that was too easy for you guys, I want you guys to then mess around with the drop tables. All right, maybe add some things, remove some things, and maybe try making a new mob inside of the mobs folder. That's not a goblin. Let's say it's a bird or something. And then redoing everything we have here. All right, redoing everything we have here, and then change the main.py so it's no longer spawning goblins, but it's spawning that new creature that you've created, right? Spawning the new creature you created. The variables here called goblin, you don't need to change, all right? You don't need to change this because there's a lot of them here. You just need to make sure what's being stored in this variable goblin here in main.py is not the goblin object, but it's another type of mob that you've created. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Yeah, that is true. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Oh, that is a very true saying, all right? I'm pretty sure I don't think we have a sticker for that actually. That is a big meme. You guys have seen it all the time in your games and then also in software you've downloaded, etc., etc. It is a real thing where you may make an oopsie, but it doesn't really break anything. But it's not exactly what you intended, but you can play it off and say it's a feature, all right? It's a feature, not a bug, all right? That's right. The sticker that we have is where there's codes, there's bugs. And we got the sticker version of it right here. Wait, hold on. I can't see in the camera. There we go. There we go. You can get yourself one of these stickers by donating, all right? By donating on the 100 Days of Rootkit link that's in the description. What questions do you guys have? Because we covered organization. We did the little adjustment or the challenge yesterday. We did organization, and then we finish up the drop table. All right. It might seem like a lot, but it wasn't too much necessarily. This import stuff can be confusing. All right. It's not like brain breaking important confusing like classes. All right. It's not that important or crazy, because if you just can't understand it, you can just put everything in the same folder, all right? But it can be kind of annoying. Or you can only go one folder deep. On the exam, we are looking for classes. We're looking for organization. The structure of your organization, we're not grading that hard on. We're looking for it, but if you put everything in one folder and just had a bunch of files in, you know, there was like a hero file, a fightable file, inventory file, etc., etc. And they weren't stuffed in, and organized really nicely in a bunch of folders. It's not going to be like terrible for you, all right? It will be noted, but it's not going to be anything bad, because the main thing is you're making a program that works, and there's files, they're organized in some capacities, there's classes, etc., etc., all right? Most of the time when you're in the job, you're going to have people on your team, all right? So if someone on your team understands folders and structures a little better than you, they can help you, you know, and teach you the organization and any additional things that you may not be like completely understanding. That's not a game breaking like thing, all right? That's not going to disqualify you from a job, all right? And that's not going to hurt you a bunch on the exam, all right? So don't get too hung up on it. Remember also, you got the examples here, so you can see what I've done. I'll be sharing this again with everyone in the supporters chat, so you guys can go check it out. Looks like Cote was trying to help me with my cancer. It was a little bit a while ago. All right, any question? Yeah, I know I'm blurry now. It's because I brought this thing up close. There we go. What questions do y'all have before we end today's stream? All right. So while you guys ask your questions, I'm just going to recap tomorrow. Where's the design doc? So this is done now. I guess before we end, commit. Git commit. All right, let's go ahead and do it together. Let's do a git add all. All right, git commit. And if we look here, let's go and look. We got some boo-boos going on right now, right? This is why it's good to look at your git commit messages, and that's why I don't recommend the TAC-M, right? If we look right now, there's a couple files that we made, some new files, just a couple of them that in folders that are missing. For the changes to be committed, they are missing. So I'm not going to write a message. I'm going to click X, which will, since I had no message and I didn't save it, it's not going to do this commit. I'm going to say git reset, right? I want to reset all the things that were being done with git there. And I want to take a look inside of my git ignore, right? There's something in my git ignore that's stopping this lib folder from being pushed up. And if I look right here, lib is not being pushed up. So I'm going to delete this line and save, and now lib is being pushed up. It's now turned green, and I just want to double check in here and make sure PyCache is not going to be pushed up. So now I can go back and do my git add all, my git commit, and then we can do organized and finished drop table. Again, not the best time to commit, because we should have committed once after we did the organization, and we should commit it again after we did the drop table. You should be committing and saving often. So another bad on me, all right? But let's go ahead and commit. If you've already gone too far, that's fine. Just commit what you have, all right? It's not, no one's going to like arrest you, all right, for it, all right? Just make a mental note and try to do it more often next time, all right? Git push, and there we go, all right? Everything is saved off. I'm super proud of myself. I kept up today, and now it's working properly. Epic, epic. That's what I want to hear. All right. Sweet. I don't see any other questions right now. Remember, you guys can ask questions at any time after the stream in the 100 Days of Rootkit chat. Can we have the screen sharing thing again, please, if you have time? I keep going in circles trying to fix my code. I'm about to start pulling my teeth from the anxiety, including error messages. Yeah, what I'll do is I'm going to again, for those that are Discord Premium and Patreon members, the code will be put into the supporters chat, so you can grab my code and then use that. Or if you have your own custom stuff going on, you can just look at it, refer to it, and then copy and paste anything over that is maybe slightly different and maybe causing your issues. All right. So should have called this day Import Madness instead. All right. It was kind of to be honest, it was kind of not what I had planned today for more import stuff, but we were getting into lots of different files, and so we kind of pivoted today. It was something that we needed to hit on. It is a required item for us to hit on. Not because you guys are going to be tested for it unless you take the what do you call it? The Python level 1 cert, you will be tested on it. But if you're not taking it, if you're doing the comp sci cert, you're not tested on it, all right? Let us see here. All right, that's all I got for you guys. So tomorrow, I think we'll continue on. Tomorrow we'll do kind of a shorter day, all right? Tomorrow, I think you guys have had enough mental abuse for quite some time. So tomorrow we're not going to introduce any new concepts, right? We're not going to talk about new import ways. We're not going to talk about new anything. We're just going to make bosses, right? We're just going to make bosses. We're going to make some classes. We're going to do some git commits. We're going to make some bosses. And after tomorrow, I don't think we're going to... I guess we'll start C. I think it'd be best if we start C on Monday. Tomorrow, we're just going to do bosses. We're going to take it very light. Maybe only like an hour for tomorrow. We'll see. All right, so that way you guys have extra time to catch up and mess with things. And then I think Saturday will be kind of the same. We'll go short and probably do a larger challenge tomorrow and a larger challenge on Saturday, and we'll go short so that way you guys can do some more self-exploration, and that way Sunday we can answer a lot of these questions. All right, we won't finish up by Monday. I don't know if we'll finish up this whole program. That's fine, we can revisit it after C, but I want us to start C, and we'll start on Monday for C. When we start in C on Monday, pretty much put a mental pause on everything Python, all right? We're starting over from the beginning. So we're going to be talking about variables again, all right? We're going to be like going back to if statements. We're going to be relearning everything from the beginning. So if you are confused or lost on any of those core things, right? Like variables, if statements, etc., we're pretty much like pressing the button of reverse, and we're going all the way back to the beginning. All right, we're going to literally teach everything from the beginning again, variables all the way up, because it's a new language. They shares a lot of the same similarities as Python. All right, so this should give you some more breathing time. Hopefully the first couple days in C are going to be very easy for a lot of you guys, and if they are, make sure you spend some time maybe brushing up on anything or completing some assignments from the Python section. All right, I know Kauai is very happy, right? I see all those messages. Don't worry, we're going very, very fast. We have 50 days, 45 days, 46 days, whatever, just for programming. All right, just for programming. Classes was the pinnacle of crazy advancedness, right? Crazy advancedness. In Python, you will really see nothing new. Syntax is going to be different. What is syntax? The layout of the code is going to be slightly different, but it's the same things. You're going to have variables. You're going to have if statements, else statements, while loops, for loops, right? Nothing new. The only new concept there, it's going to be one new concept. I guess two concepts. One is going to be memory management, and two is going to be pointers, right? That is it, right? And you've kind of seen pointers already with our functions and the numbers that get shown in our functions, all right? All right, sweet. That's all I got for you guys. So I will see you guys tomorrow on the next one.